You picked up your phone today before you got out of bed, maybe before you even opened your eyes properly. You didn't decide to. You didn't think, I wonder what's happened in the world since 11 p.m. Your hand just moved, and somewhere between the alarm going off and your feet hitting the floor, you'd already checked 3 apps you won't remember checking. That's not a bad habit. It's not laziness or weakness or a generation rotting their brains. What's actually happening in those first 8 seconds of your morning is one of the most sophisticated psychological operations ever run on the human species. And the strange part, the people who designed it didn't fully understand what they'd built until it was already inside all of us. Let's start with what your phone actually is, because it's probably not what you think. You think it's a device, a tool, something you use when you want something. But from the moment smartphone apps started competing for your attention, the phone became something else entirely. It became an experiment you're running on yourself every day without a control group. Here's how it works. Every time you open an app and get a notification, a message, a like, a piece of news, a funny video, your brain releases a small shot of dopamine. Dopamine is the brain's "that was worth it" chemical. It's what fires when you eat something good, when you finish something difficult, when something unexpected and positive happens. The key word there is unexpected. Dopamine doesn't fire for guaranteed rewards. It fires hardest when the outcome is uncertain. This is where it gets interesting. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner ran a now famous series of experiments with pigeons and a lever. When the lever gave food every time, the pigeon would press it when hungry and ignore it otherwise. Perfectly rational. But when Skinner randomized the reward, sometimes food, sometimes nothing, sometimes a bigger portion, sometimes nothing for several presses in a row, the pigeon went insane. It pressed the lever constantly, compulsively. It couldn't stop. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it produced the most addictive behavior ever recorded in a lab animal. Your phone is a Skinner box the size of your palm. Scroll down, maybe something amazing, maybe nothing, maybe something that makes you angry, maybe a message you've been waiting for, maybe silence. You never know until you check, and not knowing is precisely what keeps you checking. The most powerful psychological hook in human history wasn't invented by a neuroscientist. It was discovered by accident in a pigeon lab in 1950, and then, 70 years later, 3,000 engineers pointed it directly at you. But here's where the story gets more complicated, because the Skinner box is only half of it. The other half is social, and social rewards are the most potent kind the human brain knows. Think about what actually happens when you post something: a photo, an opinion, a joke, and then you wait. You tell yourself you don't care. You put your phone down. You pick it up again 30 seconds later, not because you're weak, because your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do, monitoring your social status. For hundreds of thousands of years, being accepted by your group was a matter of survival. Rejection didn't just feel bad, it was dangerous. So your brain evolved an exquisitely sensitive threat detection system for social signals. You are wired, genuinely biologically wired, to care intensely about how the people around you respond to you. In 2018, researchers at UCLA published a study in the journal Psychological Science. They showed teenagers photos in an Instagram-style feed and watched their brains in an fMRI scanner. When a photo had more likes, the reward circuits fired. When a photo had fewer likes, those same circuits quieted. But here's the part that shifts the whole picture. The researchers were controlling the like counts. They were fake numbers on a screen. It didn't matter. The brain responded identically to the social signal, whether it was real or invented. Your brain cannot tell the difference between being admired by your tribe and seeing a number go up on a screen. This is the part nobody talks about. You're not addicted to your phone. You're not even addicted to the apps. You're addicted to something far older and more fundamental. The feeling of belonging, the relief of being seen, the ancient satisfaction of knowing you're safe inside your group. The phone just worked out how to sell that to you in 12-second intervals. You were never going to win this one. You brought 200,000 years of social evolution to a fight with a team of Stanford engineers whose entire job was to find your weakest point and press it. Here's what everyone believes, and it's wrong. The story we tell ourselves is that we check our phones because we're bored. Waiting in a queue, sitting in silence, nothing else to do. The phone fills the gap. That's the explanation. That's what people say in interviews, in articles, in arguments with their parents. I was just bored. In 2014, researchers at the University of Virginia ran a study that should have been impossible. They put people alone in a room with nothing in it. No phone, no book, no window worth looking at. The one thing available to them was a button that delivered a mild electric shock. The researchers had already tested the shock on participants beforehand. Every single person said they would pay money to avoid experiencing it again. Then they left them alone with it for 15 minutes. 67% of men shocked themselves. 25% of women. One man shocked himself 190 90 times. They weren't bored, they were uncomfortable, and the discomfort wasn't coming from having nothing to do. It was coming from being alone with their own thoughts, unstructured, unoccupied, unobserved, just themselves. And that, it turns out, is one of the most unbearable states the modern human brain knows. This is what your phone is actually solving. Not boredom. Boredom is fine. Children are bored constantly and they survive it. What your phone is solving is something older and stranger, the discomfort of your own unwitnessed inner life, the low hum of thoughts you haven't chosen, the mental weather you didn't ask for. Checking your phone doesn't fill empty time. It interrupts the experience of being alone with yourself. The uncomfortable part presented warmly, we have built an entire civilization of people who will give themselves electric shocks rather than sit quietly for 15 minutes. That's not a criticism. That's just a very human thing to discover about ourselves. You're not reaching for your phone because there's nothing to do. You're reaching for it because there's too much silence, too much unstructured thought, too much of just you, and something in you decided that was worse than a notification about nothing. This is the part that stays with you. When something fills every gap, the gaps disappear, and most of us have stopped noticing what lived in those gaps before the phone arrived. The queue at the supermarket, the 2 minutes before a meeting starts, the train, the walk to the car, the ad break, the moment before sleep. These used to be odd little pockets of mental space, unproductive, unscheduled, unobserved. You'd stare at nothing, and your brain would quietly do something mysterious and underrated. It would wander. Mind-wandering sounds like a flaw. It sounds like distraction, like lost time. But neuroscientists have a different name for what happens in the brain during those moments. They call it the default mode network, a set of brain regions that activate specifically when you're not focused on a task. And what the default mode network does, quietly, without you directing it, is extraordinary. It processes emotion. It consolidates memory. It makes unexpected connections between ideas. It rehearses future conversations. It figures out what you actually think about things. It is, in a very real sense, the part of your brain that makes you you, and you are filling it with content. Every time you reach for your phone in a quiet moment, you're interrupting a process your brain was trying to run. Not wasted time, maintenance, the kind your mind does automatically if you let it. Nobody told you this was happening. There was no announcement. One day the phone arrived and the gaps slowly filled in, and gradually, without anyone deciding anything, you stopped being alone with yourself long enough to find out what you actually thought. You didn't lose your attention span. You donated it, willingly, a few minutes at a time, to something that was very good at asking for it. So tonight, when you get into bed, your phone will be somewhere nearby, and your hand will know exactly where it is without you having to think about it. You know what's happening now, the variable reward, the social circuitry, the gaps you stopped sitting in, the thoughts you've been rerouting around for years. That doesn't make it easy. Knowing how a magic trick works doesn't stop it from working. Your brain is still the same brain that shocked itself to avoid 15 minutes of silence. That part doesn't change just because you've named it, but maybe the next time you're standing in a queue, or waiting for something, or lying in the dark not quite asleep, and your hand starts to move, you'll catch that half second before the screen lights up. In that half second is something your brain was trying to tell you. It's been trying for a while.